my name is Belinda Dubston and welcome to the I Ching Cafe. And this week it's our weekly overview for the week commencing the 23rd of August 2021. As we head towards the tail end of August, it's still not too late to go and tap into the overview for August as a whole, so please follow the links to go and check that out and find out what the month is asking us to pay attention to. Right, so last week we had hexagram 39, obstruction, locked, okay? Accepting the injury, recognizing what the obstacle was, making peace with the fact that we are injured and finding new and unusual ways, getting helpers to get around the boulder that's blocking our path. What was your obstruction? What happened? Were you able to find a way forward, or did you just accept I'm injured? Okay, that's cool. Let me park off on the side of the path for a bit and pull myself together until I'm ready to approach this in a new way. Either way, all good. Right, so this week, our first hexagram for this week that we're being asked to pay attention to is hexagram 60, limitation. Now, if you look at this hexagram, at the structure, you can see on the bottom is lake and on the top is water. So we have a lake that's already full and we have water pouring into a already full dam. So if you are in a winter time where I am right now and the dams are full, what happens when the water is full? It overflows and floods the valley below. And we certainly see this all around us. You know, in July and in August, we've just seen the most ridiculous floods and rain and overwhelm of water taking place around us. And so the symbol is very painful to us right now and also very relevant. So limitation is all about how do we control water, how do we control the flow of water coming through the sluice gates, through the dam, predicting, understanding information, understanding water, understanding this flow, and limiting what we do to make sure the dam doesn't break its banks. Okay, so what we can think about in our lives is we can think that limits are really, really important for this week. This is not the week where we go on extravagant expansions. Okay, this is not the week where we overdo ourselves, we overcommit. This is a week where we are cautious and we put in place boundaries and restrictions to make sure that only what's necessary to get done, to get committed to, gets done and committed to. Okay. And perhaps we do that by breaking the week up into sections, taking the job and breaking it up into milestones, taking what we have to do and dividing it into smaller pieces. This is all about, in this particular hexagram, of creating intervals in things, breaking things down into parameters, into milestones, into segments, into chapters. And so that allows us to create and articulate what we're trying to do correctly. Now, this week we have 4 changing lines, so not quite the redonkulous 5 changing lines we had the week before last, but that's still a huge amount of flow of change with 4. So let's get into what those changing lines are and how we can work with their flow. So our changing lines are in the 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 6th positions. Our first changing line says it's best not to go outside. Okay, so if you can, there's obviously interpretation of literally don't go outside, or it could mean literally stay where you are, don't embark on a new thing. Okay, so for you personally, stay inside, stay close to what's really going on in your life, stay insular. It's the first changing line that we have to focus on, being insular and focused, not to go out on adventures. And for our teams as well, maybe it's an opportunity to regroup and go internally and do some internal work and not go on expansive journeys as we start off the week. Okay, so number 1, stay inside. And then in changing line 3, we're asked to set limits and restrictions that apply. Okay, so we're needing to put in place some boundaries. We had our first changing line talk about not going outside, not venturing outside of our confines of our home symbolically. And this changing line says, let's put in place some limits and boundaries. Okay, so for yourself, maybe you are having to put some boundaries around what you can do. Now we are going outside the house. Okay, we've left the house. what are some of the limits and the boundaries that we're going to do? Maybe you need some more rest, and going to bed earlier at night is going to allow you to do that. Perhaps you're needing to curtail your eating or your spending or your time spent gaming, whatever it is. We all have our vices, right? So let's put in place some limits to curtail and put in place some restrictions. Now, I know that as human beings, we always want to be free, okay? And that freedom means not having any constraints. Well, in reality, the opposite is true. Sometimes we can find the greatest freedom through commitment and through constraint. And I know that seems like an opposite idea, but I would really encourage you to think about limits and constraints this week, particularly with Changing Line 3, as a way of liberating where you are right now, given this flow of change. In Changing Line number 4, we are asked to consider natural limits. That natural limits are good and proper, but forced limits that are too exhausting to maintain are not advised. Okay, so in this thing of like, okay, we have to set limits, we're also being asked to think about choosing limits and choosing boundaries that is natural for us to manage. So a river, or water rather, flowing down a river can follow the banks of the river. It's a limit that's put on the water that makes sense. If we were trying to get water to move vertically up, move along and come down, and we were putting limits for water to go up and around and down as opposed to going through a channel, what we're asking water to do is to behave in a way that is completely opposite to the way water behaves. And to do that kind of limit, what we are doing is we are exhausting ourselves trying to get the limit to work or the boundary or the discipline to work because it just is not aligned naturally with the situation. So you're going to have to take a look in your life of where you put in place some rules for yourself or for your team or for your clients or for your business, whatever it might be. Make sure they're natural. They're easy to put in place. They're easy to manage and monitor, and they are aligned with the thing you're trying to limit. Okay? Don't try and make water go up. Try and make water flow in a particular direction in a channel. Okay, it makes sense? And then our last changing line in the 6th position advises us against harsh limits and bitter language. Okay, so here perhaps we run the risk of going too far. We put in place restrictions and penalties and hoops that people have to go through. Okay, maybe this is a disciplinary process, or these are checks and balances that we're expecting our team now to do, and we're putting in place very harsh, difficult limits, and we're putting in place kind of an enforcer language, a hardcore language around how we enforce these limits. And what happens is eventually there's a discontent that gets bred amongst our team, our family members, our loved ones, and then there's rebellion. Okay, so this week, the 4th changing line, and remember they follow a sequence, is saying watch out for harsh limits and bitter language where you are forcing someone to comply, okay, and we're using aggressive behavior and threatening behavior to make them comply. Okay, so how this is going to work will depend entirely in your own life. But if you were to summarize these 4 changing lines as a whole, if you're thinking about them as a group, be cautious about adventuring into new foreign lands. Stay inside, stay in your confines of what you know. Like, that's okay. Put in place limits. Okay, make sure they're natural limits. Okay, they're aligned to the flow or the type of thing that you're trying to limit, and make sure your limits aren't overly harsh and penalizing and aggressive in their implementation. And if you can work with that, if you can master those 4 changing lines this week, the benefits that come out of containing the dam walls will prevent challenges that are beyond what you can control. Okay. And then our outcome hexagram for this week, our second flow of change, where those 4 changing lines are taking us, is hexagram 44, coming to meet or liaison, number of different names for this hexagram. An interesting hexagram where we have a passive line coming in the bottom, a whole lot of active lines for the rest of the hexagram. And there are 2 different schools of thought about this hexagram. One says, watch out for the seed of negativity coming into the situation. It might seem like, oh, a cute little pig, but little pigs become wild hogs that can destroy your home. So we watch out for the negativity coming into a situation. We are just tuned into where that tone, or where the little gossip, or where the little thing that's coming into our situation can snowball and become a major issue later. So that's one aspect. And then the other interpretation of this hexagram is that it refers to an unusual encounter, but that's not set to last. So an unusual experience which brings new energy. Oh, that's interesting, different, okay, a different kind of experience, but it's not set to last. It's not a marriage, okay? It's just an experience. So for you in your personal life, maybe you make an encounter, you meet someone who's quite interesting, but there's a sense here that just enjoy the experience for its unusual nature, but it's not something that has legs for the long term. Just be wary of that. Okay, so I would say the real strong energy around this week is working with those 4 principles of limitation that the changing lines have given us, putting in place good boundaries for ourselves. Start with ourselves. We can't enforce limits on other people if we're not willing to impose limits on ourselves. And watch out for this flow of negativity. Just nip it in the bud. Don't tolerate the negativity. Find ways to remove it. Very interesting. Right. So enjoy the week. Look forward to hearing your stories of limitation, how they were the thing that brought you freedom. I know it's a weird thought to think of it that way. And I look forward to seeing you soon on the socials. And of course, as you join these episodes from week to week. Thank you so much.